In 3, 2, 1.
I'm still inspiring, and I'm still inspiring while I'm becoming. It's the season of...
Hey y'all, what's up? It's and Inspires. I just want to be me and inspire you. Thanks for coming to my channel. I have someone super duper special here. And it's my boo thing, Jaquan. Say hey to Jaquan. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know what's up. But this is his debut to my YouTube channel. This is your And Inspires debut. If this ever posts. If I post it. Well, I probably will.
I feel honored either way.
Yeah. This is our first time being on camera together off of Zoom. We actually be on camera together before. We've been on camera before. Mm-hmm. Just not like talking to strangers though. We be talking to people we kind of know, doing Bible studies and stuff. But we'll talk about that later. Today, I wanted to have a conversation with him to kind of give y'all some insight into our journey, because I feel like it's important as you date to be open about the dating process. Like a lot of times, single folk, we don't hear advice until you already been married, and then you tell us about what your dating was like, or you dating and then it don't work out, and then we'd be like, dang, where's the hope? So I feel like we've had a really interesting journey so far, and I want to be able to share our journey while we're still dating. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I'm missing backstory or not, but I don't think I am really. Yeah, okay. So the question I want to talk about, or the topic, I did forget something. We're talking about becoming. All year in Inspires, becoming, right? And so I think in terms of relationships, we're still becoming individually as we're like single dating, approaching with the goal of marriage, put it that way. So I don't know what to call that, but I think it's still part of becoming, and I think it's an important part of becoming. All these bloopers staying in, I don't edit stuff, so yeah. I'm not trying to be perfect because I'm still becoming. Amen. Amen. So let's get into this conversation. So, Jaquan, I want to know. Like you seen a vision. Right. Let's talk about before we even met, like where we were before we actually met. So you go first. What were you doing?
Yeah, I had recently gotten out of a long-term relationship, recent-ish, for the last 8-ish months or so. I don't know. Time is weird. Anyway, and I had, been on all kinds of dating apps and stuff, and did the Bumbles and the Hinge, and Tinder's weird, so I'll be on there. But, dabbling a little bit here and there. Conversations wasn't really going nowhere. At the same time, it was coming up to the pandemic. We're not quite in the pandemic yet, but I was starting to do some soul searching, I guess, if you want to call it that. And I resigned myself to say, you know what, God? If this is it for me, if I'm meant to be alone, then you know what? I'm not going to try to manipulate you into giving me a wife. And so I'm going to be fine with that. And so
this pause. That's good. Ooh. I'm not gonna manipulate you into giving me a wife.
Yes, I'm not going to, seek relationship with you for what I can get out of it, basically. And so, I was resigned to being like, you know what, God, this is it. I'm cool with that. You know what? I'll still do what it is you have me to do, regardless. And so, in saying that, I had started joining a couple virtual Bible studies and whatnot. And I'll let Ange tell you more about where she was before we dive further into the story.
Okay, yeah, because this is where our story finds out. So, this is hilarious to me because, we've talked about this, but like, I don't know, something about hearing this again is like, wow, you can see them dots connected, like, oh my gosh. Y'all gonna get it, just listen to my part, okay? So, I was in not a similar place because I hadn't been in a relationship since like college, and I don't really count anything before him. So relationship wasn't even on my mind. I just was like living in singleness. Now, what I came out of was my what I like to call my hoe phase. Now, if you see my testimony video, you know what I'm talking about. Hoe to holy, okay? Hoe to holy. I just came out of my hoe phase, and I was settling into what it's like to be in a relationship with God, what it's like to, you know, be serving and just like being in tune with what He wants for me. And, you know, I remember having conversations. I think, well, it started out being where I literally had the same conversation with God. Like, well, God, Paul was single. Mm-hmm. Yep, Jesus was single. Yep, and they did what you wanted them to do and live their lives and had amazing callings and, you know, things that they did with their lives, and they didn't get married. So marriage is not the goal for me. Marriage would be nice, that's cool and everything, but that's not my life goal. You know, it's not a destination for me. But if you want that for me, cool. And if you don't, well, then it's just me and you, God. I'm okay with that. Like, I like you. You actually cool, God. I'm cool with being around you. Mm-hmm. And so I had a lot of community around me. I was very intentional about that part, making sure I had community. I vividly remember having conversations with some of my friends, like, just at some point, I think it was around my birthday, 2020, right after I moved. Oh yeah, I moved out of my mom's house, got into my own space, and that really drew me a lot closer to God, because it was like a spiritual move way more than it was a physical move. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But I remember having conversations with my friends, like, something feel like, I mean, I know I'm not pressed to be in a relationship, but I just feel like this birthday, you know, usually I was into solo trips. Like, that was my thing. For my birthday, I'm going somewhere by myself. Mm-hmm. I don't need none of y'all. I'm going somewhere with just me. And that year I was like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like this is going to be the last birthday I do something alone. I don't know what that really means, but I just really feel like, you know, I'm ready to do some couple trips and, like, I don't know, have someone to share these memories with. And I didn't necessarily know what that meant or what that was going to look like, but I definitely, Takiyah and Brittany, if y'all watch this, y'all comment below and back me up, okay? I got receipts. And so that's where I was at. Like, God, I mean, if it's just me and you, cool, but also I feel like something's on the horizon here. And so I did my testimony video, and one of our mutual friends, Bria, hit me up to teach at this Bible study called Inhale, Exhale. And so we can both share our sides of the story from Inhale, Exhale, because I think that's a major factor in how we met. Mm-hmm. But to answer the question of what we were doing before we met, that was it. We were getting intentional about our relationship with God. We finally got to the point where we kind of surrendered our relationship goals to God. Like, you know what, God, I don't even need that. That's not even on my plans and goals right now. You got it. Do you? Do you, God? We both got to that point. And that's really interesting to think about, just in the process of like, we both let go of like I wasn't looking for nobody, and I don't think nobody was really looking for me either. But like he said, he was on the apps, and you know, and then he gave it up and was just like, God, do you? I'm gonna just focus on you. So take that as a word. Anybody who's single and like, when is my time coming? Well, I think a pattern that I've seen not only in us but in other people too is when you get to the point where you don't need a relationship to qualify you or validate. There we go. Mm-hmm. You don't need a relationship to validate you. Yeah. And marriage is not the goal, you know. So I think that's an important thing to take note of. So next, we're going to move into how we actually met, because this is where our stories begin to align. So I'll start with me and then hand it over to you, okay?
Cool.
So, like I said, I did that grammar. Wow. I just, as soon as it came out, I was like, wow, I had did. So I had did my Hoda Holy testimony. So I put that testimony out there. I was super excited about it. I was celebrating 3 years of like celibacy and stuff, and I just really thought that was a big deal. It's funny, it's laughable now, because now it's like, okay. And the reason I say that is because soon after I did the testimony, like I was getting ready to say before, one of our mutual friends, Bria, reached out to me and was like, hey, that was dope. I really appreciate your testimony and you sharing it. I host this Bible study. Would you want to come teach about purity? Because that's what my video was about. And I'm like, okay. I took some time to like pray about it. Like, let me see. I don't know. And I took some time to pray about it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. Because I enjoy teaching, but I hadn't really had a space to do that really. Hadn't really developed that gift at all. So I wasn't sure what that would look like. But I felt like I had an okay to do it. And so I said yes, right? And I ended up teaching this lesson. It was called, dang, what was it called? It was something about purity. The truth about purity or something. Dang, I can't even remember now.
I can't remember either.
That was like forever ago. It was like 2 years ago. It's something about purity. I'll find it and I'll link it. But anyway, I did a lesson about purity. In my perspective, when I was going in, I thought when I was preparing, it was going to be talking about, because I just did a testimony celebrating celibacy. I thought I was going to talk about our bodies and like don't have sex. And then as I was preparing for the lesson, God was like, yeah, scratch all of that, because really the real message here and what you really need to be celebrating and focusing on is your heart posture. That's where the purity matters to God. And so the whole lesson was about, we talked about David in Psalm 51 and his prayer of repentance. And we talked about how purity is actually about the heart more than it is our bodies. Because what's in our heart is what comes out in our actions. So purity is not about me having sex. Purity is about where is my heart? What are the desires in my heart that push me to use my body in a way that's not pleasing to God. But anyway, so I did that lesson. And also part of our preparation for that lesson was I had Bria send me some previous lessons so I could see what the format was, because I hadn't been attending their Bible study at the time. And she sent me 3 videos. 2 of the videos didn't work. One was one didn't work, the link didn't work. Another one, it was like a partial video. It was split into 2 and I saw part of it. The third one was a full one and it was Jaquan. It was a lesson he did called Faith Under Fire. And so I watched it and I saw the whole thing and I watched him teach. And I'm like, whoa, this guy, wow. Like, oh, talk about it, sir. Like, okay. I got to live up to that. Wow. And so I used his to help format my own lesson. And yeah, that was that for my part for the first section of that. And then once he talks, we'll tie it in together. So
yeah, so the pandemic started in March, I think. And so I had this conversation with God about, not trying to manipulate him in probably February.
Okay.
So the pandemic hits, I'm here, I'm chilling, doing whatever, in July-ish time frame, a buddy of mine tells me that some people he went to school with have started a Bible study. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go ahead and hop on, blah, blah, blah. Had no intentions of actually being involved. Just wanted to be a backseat player, wanted to play the, background or whatever. And, at one point I was like, I had a PS5 or PS4 rather pulled up while Bible study was going on. I'm sitting there, playing whatever. What they talking about, whatever they was talking about. But as I continued to, just being honest, but as I continued to join, I got involved in a couple other virtual Bible studies at that point in time. I started getting more engaged. And eventually it ended up with me speaking out some, talking about my own experience, my own testimony. And then that evolved, and I spoken up one Monday, and afterwards, Jess and Bree hit me up and say, "Hey, Jaquan, we want you to come teach." And I was like, "What?" I don't know about that, but I was like, "Well, God, this is what you want me to do. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to do what it is you asked me to do." And so I said yes, and started preparing a lesson, whatever. Taught. And then right after that lesson, started reading Forgiving What You Can Never Forget. I think it's what it's called, by Lisa Teague. I never pronounced that.
Turkers.
That. And it really ushered me into a new level of relationship with God. Because I had some stuff that went on in my past that I had to forgive some people for. and I was in the like ugly crying on the floor, like boo-hooing, snot, and all that stuff going on. Vulnerability, you know what I'm saying? And so brought this to this lesson to Bible study the next week here, and had taught that, and then heard Angie's lesson on purity. I was like, this is convicting. I don't know if I want to keep listening to this, but you know what? It's okay. I'm gonna keep listening to this. And I was like, that is a well-learned woman of God right there. I think when I was a little intimidated, but she messaged me and was like, hey, you know, I really enjoyed your lesson, and that's where we met. That's where we started off in the IG DMs. In the IG DMs.
I slid in the DMs first. I did.
But yeah, it started from us both
being obedient. Lesson number 2: be obedient in your lane. What God tells you to do, be obedient to whatever that is. And it's not a guarantee that He's gonna bring your man or your woman because you said yes, but it's always you will always be successful being obedient to what God asks you to do, whatever that is. When you have a heart of surrender to God, like, God, do whatever you want to do. I'm done trying to do this my way. Do what you want to do, and you're obedient to whatever He tells you to do. That's a great space to be in, especially in singleness. Like, when there's nobody else to distract you from doing that, like, it's the best time to really practice those muscles. Also, I want to say this because my friends be saying that I shot my shot, but really, I really did. I don't see it as shooting a shot because I reached out. Because literally, it wasn't like oh, he fine, let me slide in his DMs and say, hey, like, it wasn't even on that, like, because my mind wasn't even on looking for nobody. I literally was on some, like, let me, this is somebody else teaching, and I've sat in that seat, I know what that's like, let me give him some flowers, like, yo, that was a great lesson, because you don't know when if people actually hear that, outside of the Bible study itself, like, and I know for a fact now, looking back, it's been the most impactful conversations have been after you taught, days later, or that really blessed me, like that really helped me, or I really took something away from that, outside of when everybody's clapping for you out loud, like, so I wanted to be one to reach out to him and be like, yo, that was a great lesson. And from there we kept talking, and we figured out we had androids. That was like the first joke we had. We was like, I think he was like, I forgot how we got the exchanging numbers, because we stayed in a DM for a second, and then you was like, well, don't be surprised or something, because I'm gonna have a green box. And I was like, oh, me too. All y'all iPhone people, I know y'all probably is like, ew, but that's our thing, okay? We was like, green box, oh my gosh, yes. And it was a wrap from there. Oh, and then I gotta tell him, within like the first week of us talking, I think I had made a joke, because we were talking about, I think you were telling me about Miami. Oh yeah, because you was like, some crazy stuff happened. I have to tell you about it another time. And then I was like, oh yeah, like, that's a phone call conversation or something like that, because we had just been texting. And so then from there, we set up a Zoom call. Like, it's like, hey, he sent me a link, and I was like, oh, because I think you sent me dates, because that was the first thing. I was like, oh,
dates and times.
He's speaking my language, okay?
My calendar.
It wasn't no like, what you doing when okay, we'll do it one day. He was like, all right, does this day work? And I'm like, oh, you sent me calendar dates or what? I said, he's speaking my language. So we got a date in the calendar. We hopped on Zoom, y'all. That was the best. I've not had a conversation better than the conversation that we had, and it was like mind blowing, because it wasn't no small talk. Like, I think we like kiki for a little bit at the beginning, but then we hopped straight into like, so this is what the last couple of years of my life looked like. I just got out of this. This is what that looked like. I'm like telling my testimony while I used to be a hoe. Look, I got this happened to me. I got raped when I was this age. And I did this, and this is where I'm at now. And he did the same. It was just this level of vulnerability from the jump that was so beautiful, and it set such a great foundation for like where we are now. And then I feel like at that, because I feel like I didn't know you lived in Raleigh until a little while after we had been talking.
I don't think so.
It was a second till I realized, because I live in Charlotte. If you're watching from outside of North Carolina or outside of my direct sphere of influence, I live in Charlotte. He lives in Raleigh right now. And you see that right now. You see how I did that? but when we first started talking, I didn't know we live in two different cities. We'll talk about this later as far as distance and things like that. But yeah, that just made it even more interesting because it forced us to talk a lot. We spent a lot of time talking at the beginning. We got to know each other really fast. Is there anything you remember about that time? Like,
I remember feeling like I was in high school again, being up on the phone. Like, I'm not a spring chicken no more. So being on the phone, like, up until 2-3 o'clock in the morning, kikiing, haha, and all that good stuff. But also having, like, very, quote-unquote, adult, very serious conversations. Meaningful and deliberate conversations about, like, life, you know, past, present, and future, et cetera, et cetera. And being, like, I remember the very first conversation we had, I got off the phone, I called the boys up, was like, yo, I just had a fire conversation. And they kind of set the tone, the precedent for how we would communicate moving forward. I'm not going to sit and tell you, like, every conversation we have is
perfect.
Boom, 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 banger, banger, banger every time. But banger. But it set a level of communication and vulnerability and openness that has been kind of the standard moving forward.
I love you.
This is going on YouTube.
I know.
Make that stupid face, sorry.
It's okay, because I be doing all this stuff. It's okay. You see, he's just like me, guys. We're goofballs. This is why we work so well together. We have a lot more. I could go and talk all night about us, but I'm gonna save it. We're gonna make a whole series out of this, but I felt like this was a very necessary introduction to my honey. That's what I call him, my honey. And I hope that was helpful, because I really, like, the common themes I really got was, one, surrendering your life to God, surrendering your plans and your goals to God, not being stuck on, I want to be married. Don't let marriage be the idol in your life. Like, that's not life's goal, to be married. Not at all. Like, not at all. So don't let relationships or marriage be an idol in your life. God always needs to come first. Period. Like, he can't be nowhere else but first. And so when you get to that space where you're ready to be like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of trying to do this by myself. God, I need you to come in and do whatever. God, whatever you want me to do. And then once you got whatever you want me to do, the second part of that is being obedient. So whatever he wants you to do, when he started talking, because it's not, he been talking, it's, have you been listening? Because you've been looking at marriage too long to be listening to what God really is telling you.
We all got that one friend that asks you for advice and then don't take it when you give it to them. Don't be that person.
Don't be that person. When God really start telling you, all right, well, this is what I want you to do it. Be obedient, and be quick to be obedient with your yes. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. And also, I think I would add to, like, do something that you care about. Like get into, I tell people a lot of times you will find people who are like-minded when you go to the places where your heart is. Like, if you have a heart to serve, go serve, and you're gonna meet people who have a heart to serve. Right? If you're on an app where there's just a gajillion random people, you're gonna meet random people and waste your time. If you go into the club but you don't want to have sex, they don't go together. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, I feel like, just as far as where you put yourself, the places you go, what you're feeding yourself, I feel like you should go where your heart is. Like, if I have a heart to serve, then let me go serve, and you're gonna meet somebody, even if it's just friends. You're gonna meet other people who have a heart to serve. So I think that's just an extra tip. Like, And I think obedience will lead you to those places as well, because obedience led us to the Bible study. I wouldn't have planned to go to a Bible study and meet anybody, honestly. I wouldn't have planned that.
Especially not a virtual Bible.
Especially not a virtual Bible study. Like, we tell people that, they be like, how'd you guys meet? Actually, we met on a virtual Bible study. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Let me get on a virtual Bible study. Like, let me go online. But yeah, so those are 3 things I think are things to keep in mind. I'll say I don't want to call it advice because we're not experts. You know, this is just our story, our lane, the story we have to tell, and I want to be able to be transparent in the moment we're in. I don't want to wait till we married and then go back and remember how we met and about our dating experience. So I definitely want to be really intentional about getting us on here to share what dating is like and has been like, and our downfalls, slip-ups, struggles, challenges, and also even the highlights and things we've learned along the way. So I hope this encouraged you and inspired you. Again, I'm Ange. This is Jaquan. You'll see us on my Instagram at some point, because I be, you know, I be showing him off and that. I used to go, I'm not going to post you on my Instagram, and then one day I was just like, you know what? I want to post you today. I'm going to post you. It's happening today. So now we're here. Now we made it to YouTube. Like,
now we're here.
We're YouTube official.
Not YouTube official.
We're YouTube official. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. In the comments, like, let me know what was some of your takeaways. What was something that encouraged you or maybe inspired you, or something you've learned if you're single and dating, something that you've learned along the way in your experience. Yeah, so I think that's it. You have anything you want to add?
No, be blessed.
Be blessed. We love you guys. Peace.